So, guys, we are back for round 3 here at Oath of the Gatewatch Game Day. We have Edward K. on the left playing some Abzan Eldrazi, and you might recognize the deck on the right. It is Paul L. coming back again after round 1 with some 4-color Rally. He did pretty well in round 1, I'd say. So we'll see if the Abzan Eldrazi have a way of taking care of it. Starting off as usual with some tapped lands. As always, I am Joe.
I'm Schnaz.
And so we're here bringing you some commentary over these matches as we watch these guys just play down some lands. No fetches cracked yet, which is actually kind of interesting, but the Sylvan Advocate is the first card that gets played down on Edward's side.
Very strong early play.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
It's good early as a 2/2, and then once the game, if the game goes long and that thing stays, it can become even bigger, and it has vigilance. It's just great.
Yeah, it's a good card, good early play. Can get in some very good early damage if, but the Jace drops.
Speaking of good early plays, Jace comes down.
But the fact that it's still a Jace. The Jace can be taken care of if he wants to swing and block.
And there
fight. There's the fight.
So the Dramoka's command comes down. There's a fight plus a +1/+1 counter on there. So he attacks for 3 as well with vigilance.
Yep.
So that's a big play. Jace
taking care of that Jace early is the key here.
It's true.
We've seen this deck kind of go wild with the Jace, but the fact that he got rid of it early definitely gives him some playroom, gives him some breathability in order to actually go against this deck. Yeah. Since Jace is a really strong engine here.
Yeah. And there's a Catacomb Sifter, so that comes down. He also gets a Scion token, so he has another 1/1. Combined, the two of them can get rid of the 3/3 on the other side, but they would have to combine to do it. So it is definitely a possibility here for Edward to offer that trade, and he does. And Paul just takes it. He's not willing to wipe his board to try to deal with the 3/3 over there.
Combat main phase, Siege Rhino. That's a big hit.
That's a big time. So 6-point swing, 3 down and 3 up on opposite sides there.
Now he's got a 3/3 and sitting on a 3/3 and a 4/5.
It's true.
A pretty big board.
Yeah.
The question is, does he have an answer for it?
We'll see what Paul's got. Paul's on 3 lands there, so not quite. Okay, Reflector Mage. Bouncing the Siege Rhino. Interesting choice, because if that comes back down, it's another swing.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Whether or not wants to do that, it's really up to him. But the Thought Knot
coming down. So big threats all around. We get to see Paul's hand. He's got another Jace, a Cutthroat, a Collected Company, and a Sidisi's Faithful. So the Sidisi's Faithful could come down and bounce another creature. So he's still got bounce outlets, even though the Reflector Mage is already on the field. He does have that other Jace, and the choice was made to get rid of that other card in his hand, and we got the block made. So like we mentioned, double block gets put in front of it, and he chooses to kill the Catacomb Sifter.
Yeah. That's a choice I would have made. I mean, you want to get rid of the bigger creature in this case.
Right.
Thought and a 4/4. Let's see, you got the 4/4 Thought Knot out. All right, got 2/3 Reflector Mage, a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion token.
Yeah. So still looks like Paul's still pretty behind here.
He's still on the defense at this point.
And he plays the Sidisi's Faithful, bouncing that Thought Knot.
Again, putting a lot of stuff back in his hand that could do a lot of damage as soon as they hit the field. Including a Thought Knot and a Siege Rhino are still in his hand.
Yeah.
So those could definitely, even though they're not on the battlefield, they're still a big threat in his hand. As soon as they come out in the play, they have a trigger.
Yeah,
and that could definitely affect the game and the long-term running of this game.
Yeah. It puts him on the back foot slightly because he does have to retap his mana to play it. Jace coming down for Paul, and he gets in some quick 3 damage here from his other creatures.
The Siege Rhino can cure that right back up. So if he wants to play the Siege Rhino, he can just pretty much negate that damage.
It's true.
See what he's going to do this turn.
We know 2 of the cards in his hand. He keeps playing lands, which is obviously good.
There's
4 mana.
There's the Siege Rhino. So the attack that just came in gets more or less negated,
and also technically reversed.
Yes,
because 3 more damage coming down for Paul. So he's got to find a way to deal with these threats besides bouncing them. I know bouncing them gets the immediate threat out of the way, but it just delays it until later. Here comes a Jace activation. He does have 5 cards already plus in his graveyard, so no matter what he discards, Jace will flip.
So Unbound will be in play.
Mm-hmm.
So what is he?
Discards another Jace.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Ticks it up, targeting the Siege Rhino.
Siege Rhino is now at 2/5. So it becomes a little easier to deal with damage-wise.
Plays another Catacomb Sifter, another Eldrazi Scion comes out.
But now that it's a 2/5, he doesn't have to bounce it back, and instead of he'll just take the 2 instead of taking the 3 when it gets cast again.
Right, or he can. Yep, and he's sacrificing a Scion, floating a colorless mana to which allows him to scry off of the Catacomb Sifter, which is a good play. It looks like that might be an Elvish Visionary on the top of the deck, and it looks like he puts it on the bottom. Tapping 1 with the other one that was there to play another Jace, which is why you can see he did not mind discarding or sacrificing the other one. So there you go. And that one's a foil one, so I got to respect a foil Jace.
Yeah.
So
you can't really, there's nothing really even bad you can say. Oh, swings in for 2 with
still
the
choosing to attack for 2.
What is he going to do?
Trying to decide
blockers. What is he throwing at it to kill it?
Does he triple block to kill it? Does he single block, take it? There's a bunch of different options here for him.
Yeah. No, in this case, well, in this case, if he wants to kill it, I mean, or just deal with the 2 damage repeatedly, which is fine. I think in this case, he's actually going to attack the Jace, maybe, or actually, no, I think he's just going in straight for his face.
Yeah, I think the point was just confirming that it was the -2, so that it is a 2/4 right now. Or 2/5, excuse me.
Does he want to deal with killing it? Does he not want to deal with killing it?
It's definitely a tough choce. You don't... With Siege Rhino, he knows Thought-Knot Seer is still lurking in his hand. That's another 4/4 creature.
He might want to keep as much creatures as he can in play for the Thought-Knot. Yeah. So it would be better to kill the Thought-Knot in this case, and he's able to draw a card off the Thought-Knot if he kills it.
Right. So just putting the Reflector Mage there, bringing it back, nothing happens, no one dies, no one takes any damage, but choosing not to throw most of his army in front of that Siege Rhino
to get rid of it. No, he's still keeping him in play.
Mm-hmm. Plays an Eldrazi Displacer.
Oh, that's a combo.
And sure enough, he has the mana for it. He taps the 3, blinking the Siege Rhino, does 3 more damage, and that's crazy.
That's a pretty strong combo in Standard right now.
Very, very good. There's a lot of enter the battlefield effects, as we've seen with any of the things that have been being bounced back to his hand. He could blink a Thought-Knot and take another card out of his hand.
Keep taking cards like that. All exile. Just dwindle down his hand. I mean, and to the point where he can get him to start top decking. I mean, that'd be a very strong play, especially against Rally.
Yes.
And all those cards get exiled. It's not like they go to the graveyard; they get exiled.
Yeah. So which is also important for Rally.
Yeah. Well, so if he keeps doing that and is plays a Thought-Knot, plays a land, plays a Thought-Knot, and all of a sudden he's able to just kind of bounce that back and forth to start dwindling his hand, that could be very devastating, especially against a Rally deck.
It's true. Very, very true. So let's see. Paul's kind of in the tank here, trying to figure out what to do. He's got to deal with these threats that are being presented to him. Yeah. He's got 2 cards in hand.
Sitting on 4 land. That's enough for a collective company if he has it.
He ticks up Jace. But which one's he going to target? He's choosing... Yes, he's choosing the Displacer.
That's an interesting play.
And it looks like...
I see what he's going to do. He's going to activate the Jace.
Mm-hmm.
Legend Rule comes into play.
So he will give himself a little bit of card advantage as well. It gets him another bite at the apple with drawing a card this turn. He does have to discard, but obviously because the other Jace activated, he still has over 5 cards in his graveyard. So that Jace will also flip. And then he discards Ailey, flips the Jace, basically just puts that card in the graveyard, indicating that the new Jace is out.
The interesting about that play is he's actually now able to do a Jace ability again.
Yes, and he still activates it on the Displacer, which is also interesting in my opinion. So he's bringing the Displacer down to a 0/3 until next turn. He is sacrificing the
Scion token for floating a colorless mana.
And
he
gets a scry.
Which allows him a scry and a cutthroat.
It looks like a rally on top.
There's a rally on top, and he keeps it there. He's tapping there. 2 more with the 3rd that was already there to play a Reflector Mage, bouncing the Siege Rhino. So again, interesting choice of bouncing the Siege Rhino.
So, that's probably something he was planning on doing, is getting in the Siege Rhino in first place, played around it.
And was able to do 2 Jace activations.
He's has an 04 now in play. That's so there's not really much you can do with that. So he pretty much negated all of that.
Well, and he was also possibly banking on the fact that he wouldn't have enough mana to play either the Thought Knot or the Siege Rhino and activate the Displacer, but he played a land down this turn. So, and still not happening. He plays the Thought Knot and he plays Ailey. Paul has no cards in his hand,
so it doesn't do anything hand wise, but it plays that rally which he saw.
Right, exactly.
Draws the rally that he saw, rather.
Draws it. Yep.
Whether or not he plays it,
that'd be a big draw for him.
Yeah, no, that'd be definitely a big, because it seems like he's got a lot of cards in his graveyard.
He's ticking it up, activating it on the Thought Knot, so the Thought Knot will be a 2/4.
Is there an N2Go Husk in Paul's graveyard? I think so. If that's in it, he can definitely do some damage.
Just have a sack engine and start moving around with some cutthroats and some scrying. And here comes the Siege Rhino, though. It's another 6-point swing, 3 and 3.
Yeah, and it seems like he's gonna rally in response.
It looks like it with 4 mana. What would he? Yep, he's playing Rally the Ancestors, X equaling 2. Looking through his graveyard here.
Nantuko Husk.
Nope. But he's got.
But wow.
Okay, now he dumps what looks like a lot of creatures, but 3 of them are Jaces, which means 2 of them go away. He still gets the activations on the Cutthroats, or the Cutthroat, and he still gets the activation on the Catacomb Sifter. So it's a 2 life loss, 2 life gain swing, plus 2 individual scry triggers. He checks the top card. It looks like a land. He's thinking about it as well, because he only has 4 lands. He puts it on the bottom.
I guess he doesn't want to land.
Another land on the top, puts that on the bottom as well. Then he Sidisi's Faithful, sacrifices, bouncing the Eldrazi Displacer back to Edward's hand.
Yeah, he's got to do that. He doesn't want that ability activating and doing like a Thought Knot or a Siege Rhino again.
And then, of course, it activates the Cutthroat again, and it activates the Catacomb Sifter again. That was a big
stacks. Okay, a stack has resolved at this point,
and the rally will exile those cards eventually, but he has to wait. So he can still do other things with his. He has an alien and a Jace, so the only 2 left from the rally at this point.
Still Edward's turn. So what is he going to do if he does anything at the end of his turn? If he replays something, is he going to replay? Okay.
Replays the Displacer.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so Displacer comes back down, and now it's Paul's turn again. He knows that he's got to be getting rid of these cards from Rally, but the first thing he's doing is activating Jace.
Does he want to?
It looks like he's thinking about it.
The thing is, if he's just going to discard whatever he draws. So if it's an important card, it might screw him over, really. Oh!
So he hits
a collective company.
And he knows that the new Jace is coming down, but it gets the Jace in his graveyard, so if he draws another rally, he can get that Jace back. More activations of Cutthroat and Catacomb Sifter. He looks at his top card, doesn't look too happy with it, and he scoops it up. Oof. The collected company loss was too much for him, as you pointed out. It was way too important, so... had to scoop it up. That's game 1. So we will be back to you momentarily with game 2. Go ahead.
Welcome back, everyone, to game 2 of round 3. Not a great start off for Paul in the first game. Was trying to dig for something he could possibly do.
It looks like he just mulliganed as well.
Oh, did he?
I think so, yeah.
All right, going down to 6 cards.
Yeah.
Gets that scry, though, so hopefully he'll get something good off of it.
Yeah.
If he likes what he sees in his hand, let's see what happens. Does he like it?
5 and 6. Scry
He
likes
keeps it. He scries and scries it right to the bottom. Scry is really helpful. I really appreciate the new scry rule. It's not too overpowered, but it is really useful. It makes mulligans feel a lot less terrible.
Yeah. And you can still it'll gives you that option to again, like I was mentioning before in one of our previous videos, to mulligan aggressively. You can just keep mulligan. That scry just helps you gain much more edge on your hand, and you can just be like, all right, I really want to dig for something. You can mulligan, and that scry really helps. Yeah.
So right now, some fetch lands staring at each other. Paul plays a basic, and the first fetch land gets cracked. So taking life total down by 1 point, paying that life to crack that fetch is something that I'm pretty sure we've seen everyone do at least once in all these videos. So
it doesn't look like he can play a Jace right now, so that's probably what he was.
Well, that would have been on Paul's turn, and he chose not to. So yeah, Paul just passed with 2 available. Well, after he would crack the fetch, he would have 2 available.
Yep. So no Jace yet, but I have a feeling it's gonna rear his head.
Oh, maybe on the wrong side. I can't tell whether that's a Jace or a Sylvan Advocate. It's probably a Sylvan Advocate.
I think it's a Sylvan Advocate. I think you're right.
Flooded Strain gets cracked.
Searching for some type of blue source.
Most likely.
Definitely needs a blue source at this point.
True. Okay, so he played. He did get. He cracked 2 fetch lands.
Okay, yep.
And he was able to get a green source and a blue-black source, and played the Catacomb Sifter right away.
Got it.
Gets the Eldrazi Scion out of the deal. So, presumably, then we will not be seeing an attack on Edward's side here. Because that Catacomb Sifter would be able to stop that immediately. Yeah, so
got 3 power on the field for him, so definitely can stop any onslaught that could be coming his way.
All right,
it's his turn now.
Yep, back to Paul.
See what he does with his 3 mana. With it, that's pretty much most of the creatures within his deck actually do cost 3 mana. So whether or not he wants to actually play something, he has something in his hand. He can play something, get a little more board control. He's got, he's pretty much in control now, but it doesn't hurt to push the knife in.
Well, and sure enough, he passes after playing a blue-black source. I will point out the other thing that he could have done in this rally deck of his would be to play Collected Company on turn 4 with 4 mana, but.
But the Thought Knot.
Thought Knot comes down.
So didn't have the Collective Company in his hand.
He does have a rally, but he has nothing in his graveyard for it, and the Reflector Mage gets exiled. So has some extra lands. You know he's going to hit a land drop again. Tapping 2.
Tapping 2 for Jace. He was able to keep that, but probably maybe might have an answer for it in his hand. That's probably why he got rid of the Reflector Mage, although Reflector Mage is a big on control, so
and now the active Thought Knot Seer is going to attack, which makes sense because to stop it he would have to throw the Jace in front of it as well as the other 2 creatures to kill it. So it looks like Paul just takes the damage.
And then a Siege Rhino. What a turn.
Siege Rhino happens. Great stuff there, with the Thought Knot followed by Siege Rhino.
That's what is that? 7 damage? Wow.
So
7 damage in 1 turn.
You saw Paul aggressively try to get rid of the Siege Rhino and the Thought Knot last game. Keeps those threats coming. Edward keeps those threats coming on his side. So good job.
Yeah, Paul not missing a land drop though.
It's true. Just keeps playing, keeps cracking stuff, and I mean he's taken a pretty hefty amount of damage here, but he's filling up his graveyard pretty quickly. It looks like he's got an Evolving Wilds over there. He can put that in the graveyard and use Jace's ability to have all 5 and be able to flip Jace. Now, he can shrink one of the creatures with Jace once he gets it, but that's not enough. And
there's -4/-4.
Catacomb Sifter goes down with a Grasp of Darkness.
Can't do anything about it.
It's true. Just lets it happen. And gets attacked.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That was a Den Protector from before. I'm sure people will have been correcting me on that, so I apologize. I thought it was Sylvan Advocate. That was incorrect. It was a Den Protector, which he did not morph. It was just something he played to try to get some early damage down, but that Catacomb Sifter stopped that in its tracks. So, but he did crack his fetch land, or I'm sorry, excuse me, his Evolving Wilds, to go get his swamp there. He did take quite a bit of damage, but he is going to be able to flip Jace this turn if that's what he wants to do.
Luckily, still alive.
See how he can pull this game out, or if he can. This is
it's looking rough. Siege Rhino, Thought Knot still in play. Oh, all right, there you go. Draw a card, discard a card. Gonna crack the Jace.
It's a very pretty pre-release promo foil Jace, I'll say. I appreciate that greatly. I mentioned that earlier, but it's okay. So he discards the Nantuko Husk. Now he has Rally the Ancestors, so putting that Catacomb Sifter and that Nantuko Husk in the graveyard are on purpose, I'm sure, to be able to rally for a large amount and bring them both back at the same time, among other things.
Yeah. Getting his lands together. What is he going to for 2? Okay, plays the Cutthroat. Now he has enough mana. He has enough mana for a rally and or a collective company. So.
That's right. But we know he has the rally. We don't know if he has a collected company now.
That's true.
And don't forget, Jace has been activated on the Siege Rhino. So the Siege Rhino is currently a 2/5, whereas the Thought Knot is still a 4/4. And the Den Protector has 2 power as well.
Is there a way he can... No,
Shambling Vent has been activated. And it's a big swing. Rally gets played. So,
or 3, it looks like.
Yes. X is 3. Playing down the Catacomb Sifter and the Nantuko Husk. Getting his Eldrazi Scion. So it's 4 attackers, 4 available blockers. Let's see how Paul decides to order them.
Stop this onslaught.
Yes. Head in hand a little bit there. Trying to determine how he's going to... Is he going to trade? Is he going to go for some kills? Is he going to go for some chump blocks? He was, again, don't forget, able to shrink that Siege Rhino to a 2/5 and kind of throwing his hands up there in a little bit of confusion. Just trying to, at this point, probably just trying to keep himself alive.
Yeah,
and see what the best way
is. We know
a
couple things are going to happen. I mean, he can choose to not block with the Cutthroat in general, and take whatever damage to, and take whatever damage to come from whatever he doesn't block.
The Den Protector probably with two damage coming from that.
Yes, that's true.
Or the Siege Rhino, because technically I guess they're both attacking for 2. But
so he's declaring blockers because he wants to. He's going to get a little life gain out of this from the Cutthroat. So at least it's not all hope is lost.
And the important thing to realize too is after blockers have been declared, if those blockers are sacrificed to the Nantuko Husk, those creatures that were blocked still remain blocked and don't deal damage, especially that Shambling Vent on the end there. You can almost be certain that Paul has chosen to do that and block with the Scion so that it doesn't gain any life link, increasing Edward's life total any further. And sure enough, there it goes.
Seems like this is actually just going to even out. He'll take 2, and then whatever creatures... Well, it's 1 creature that's dead... so you might have just taken 1 damage.
No, but at this point, the Nantuko Husk is also going to trade with the Thought Knot. The Shambling Vent does not gain any life for Edward. The Catacomb Sifter looks like it would be taking down the Den Protector.
This might go even, actually. He'll take 2 damage, but gain 2 life from the Cutthroat. And actually...
That's right.
And actually, it seems like he actually comes out... not necessarily ahead, but actually... Deals...
He makes Edward lose 2 life off of the Cutthroat as well, and 2 of his creatures go down. Don't forget, not only does he get Cutthroat triggers, but the Catacomb Sifter did not die, so he's also getting some Scry triggers off of the Nantuko Husk going down.
They're just discussing.
He's he's remembering that the Thought Knot Seer went away, so he also gets to draw a card off of Thought Knot, but he's stacking his Scry triggers along with his draw triggers. So he is scrying first, determining whether he wants it, puts it on the bottom, and draws the unknown card underneath it.
Yep. Draws a card from the Thought Knot dying.
And so now
now it's back to his turn.
Yep.
Whoa, all right, the big swing.
Now the creature went away from Rally the Ancestors. It was exiled. So that goes away there. The Catacomb Sifter. So he's got just a Cutthroat, but he's going to plus Jace.
Still dealing with that Siege Rhino. Nantuko Husk.
There you go. So another Nantuko Husk. That's important.
Yeah. Still, he has a combo pretty much out. Really has nothing to sacrifice to it.
Exactly. And a Shambling Vent gets activated, a 2/3 lifelink land there. And he's swinging with both for 4 damage.
Yep. 2/5 and a 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
See what Paul's reaction to this is.
Edwards, I gotta say, even after the last turn, Edwards doing a great job of keeping the pressure on, even after having lost a lot and given Paul seemingly some card advantage. Edwards still keeping the pressure on, so the Nantuko Husk becomes a 4/4 after the Cutthroat is sacrificed to it. The Cutthroat trigger activates, and the Shambling Vent does go down, but damage was dealt to the Nantuko Husk, so 2 life was gained through the lifelink, and 2 damage was dealt through with the Siege Rhino as well.
Yeah, it was a good trade. It was definitely a good trade.
That's right. So he ticks it up again with Jace, plays another Catacomb Sifter.
Okay, that's extra 3 damage on the board.
It's true.
Definitely looks like it does. Looks like he actually has enough to kill the Siege Rhino if it attacks again.
It's true, and it really seems like Paul has done a great job of stabilizing. I would say 2 turns ago or so, it looked like there was very little opportunity, and has been able to kind of stick it out and get in there.
The rallying all those creatures definitely, and to stabilize the board and get rid of the Thought Knot, helped him out greatly.
It's true. It was a big deal. So let's see what Edward has to fill back up his board.
Let's see what he does. Still
playing another
Siege
land.
Rhino is still only a 2/5. So
that's right, and he swings with it.
Okay.
Keeping up the pressure. So he can either block with the Catacomb Sifter and just have nothing happen. They kind of look at each other. Or he can, as you mentioned, block and try to actually do some...
He could get a lot of scries off this.
Yep.
Does he get the scries off this? Yes.
And
the landfall.
Landfall, and not the kind that you want with the ability.
Just
the landfalls to the floor. But he's still making some decisions here. Does he triple block? Does he single block? Kind of in the tank on this one.
Siege Rhino keeps getting in for damage, so whether or not he's just sick and tired of it, apparently he just wants to get rid of it.
And throws his hand up too. You can see he says, let's do it.
All right, let's see what happens.
He's tapping 2, taking 2 damage from the Caves of Koilos, which means he's playing Grasp of Darkness on the Nantuko Husk.
Ooh, yeah, no, he's not going to be able to save it whatsoever, even if he sacks the creatures.
Yes, and even if he did try to sack the other creatures to it, it would still only be a 2/2, meaning that the other 2 creatures would go away, and then it would take 2 damage from the Siege Rhino. The Siege Rhino is choosing to kill the... He wanted to kill the Catacomb Sifter, forgot about the Jace activation, so the Eldrazi Scion dies instead, and he gets 2 scry triggers off of each of his creatures, or 1 off of each of his creatures dying. Kind of makes a second chance. It looks like a Sidisi's Faithful there, trying to figure out whether he wants to bounce a creature or not. And since he only has a Siege Rhino, I don't know that's what he wants.
I don't think he wants to bounce a Siege Rhino. That's kind of a... Because then you're taking the 3 instead of the 2.
Exactly. And so chooses not to, leaves it on the bottom, draws the unknown card underneath it. Still has a possibility that it could have been a land. He does still tick up Jace onto...
Jace is at 9.
Jace
That's a big
is at
number.
9. Next turn.
There's another Jace.
So there you go. Kind of hedging his bets there.
Jace after Jace.
Yes.
Okay.
So he could have an emblem. He could be trying to mill his opponent out a little bit here. Kind of a little late to try and start a mill strategy, but at the same time, if you get some
never
threats
too
out of
late
the way,
to start a mill strategy.
well, if you get some threats out of the way with those top 5, even if he only gets 5 or 10 cards, getting some threats out of the way is still a big deal.
And you can you can essentially look at those cards that you mill and be like, all right, and be like, just do a little math, make sure okay, what are the possibilities of what he has in his hand, getting rid just of a ton of cards, what he's have left in his deck, and be like,
sure
okay,
enough,
I know this is not a threat anymore, and you can go in for pretty much whenever you feel like it. Pops the ultimate.
So
gives him the emblem.
There's no emblem on the table, but we do know that it exists. He discards a Flooded Strand, flipping the new Jace over. It would start with 5. Let's see if he minuses it. He's checking his graveyard, so he's either checking for a rally in his hand or for Jace to see what he wants to do. He does tick it up, targets the Siege Rhino again, kind of Jace's favorite thing to do in this matchup. So bringing that Siege Rhino back down to a little bit more of a manageable attack or power total.
Looking at his graveyard, so
again,
he's either wants to play a rally, or if he doesn't have the rally in his hand, just looking for possibilities here.
Oh, and he plays a morph. Now, again, with Paul's deck, we've seen that the only morph that I've seen out of Paul's deck so far is the Grim Haruspex, which, if flipped up, would allow him, anytime a creature dies, to draw a card. It goes along with all the other strategies in his deck for caring and having things matter when creatures go to the graveyard. Over on Edward's side, he did just crack a fetch land, took a damage, and got another land for himself. He is now milling 5 because of the spell that was played in the morph creature. So those cards go away, and now it's his turn. So he draws his card, plays a land. Let's see what he's got.
A lot of cards.
Got to be something.
Now, in this situation, like, would you ask yourself this? Like, should I have sideboarded in a archive to get rid of the Rally's graveyard?
If that's in his sideboard against Rally, then yes. So he plays Ailey Eternal Pilgrim here. So we will see kind of what impact that card has. He did take a damage from that Caves of Koilos. And after he plays that Caves of Koilos, I mean, he's been using it a lot. I don't know if that is part of his strategy to be taking that damage, or if he just hasn't found enough black or white sources there, because he just had 1 black, 1 white to play Ailey, and has been taking some damage off of it. So
probably try to save as much of his white sources as he can.
No, and there's Dramoka's command, so a fight is happening. Let's see if there's a response. And there's a collected company.
Oh,
so he says, hold on, and the spell has been played, so the Jace emblem activates. 4 and 5. And looks like a Hallowed Moonlight, I believe, right there. So just checking his graveyard, as you mentioned, trying to see what cards he may have gotten, what cards may be left in his hand, in his library. So he's looking at 3, 4, 5, 6 cards there to see what he might get. He puts down 2 Reflector Mages. Very, very happy to point at those 2 creatures. Get them both off the field. One of them was a Siege Rhino, so we mentioned that is relevant, but still gets any threats off the board. There's nothing left. The Grim Haruspex has been flipped, and that was at the end of Edward's turn. So now it's Paul's turn. He has all of these creatures to attack with.
If he gets something off this, he might be able to do some work and swing it in.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason. I was going to say there's no reason not to, but we don't know what he has in his hand. He's tapping 5 first.
For Rally.
There it is. Rally for X equals 3.
I think that just did it.
So he's got... look, just a stack of creatures there. Lays him down on the table.
And there's a Nantuko Husk to go off at all.
There's 2, in fact.
2 of them.
With a Zulaport Cutthroat and a Jace. So
he's got draw triggers, he's got scry triggers, he's got
sack
triggers, he's got life gain triggers, he's got a lot of triggers going on right now.
They're kind of doing the math in their heads.
Doing the math. Is that a kill?
Yes.
It's lethal. Yep, that's game.
I mean, honestly, at that point, with the damage that was dealt on the field, plus the fact that sacking to the Nantuko Husk would mean losing life off of the Cutthroat, it just was too much. I think you could see Paul there kind of, asking Edward if he knew what was going on, counting it up, and Edward was realized what was going on and scooped it all up. So that's the end of Game 2. We are moving into Game 3, 1 game apiece. Let's see how it works out, and we will be back momentarily.
Hey, welcome back to Game 3, Round 3. Last match of Round 3. Let's see what happens. Paul playing out of his mind last game. Able to save himself from so much damage that was coming to his face with a Rally. Just played it out really well last game. We'll see what happens this game. If he still keeps that same mentality and that mental focus up, he can definitely take this game. Makes the same type of plays he did last game.
And speaking of the same type of plays, we see another Ailey come down on Edward's side, and another damage gets taken from the Caves of Koilos. Like I said, I'm not sure if that's part of the strategy or if that's just what he has to do, but he's been taking some damage, making some black mana on that Caves of Koilos. And I mean, right now it's slightly paying off because Ailey's actually able to get in. We haven't really seen Ailey do too much for him yet. But Jace activations are happening on Paul's side now, so...
Yeah. Jace is not Unbound is not actually not going to hit the field, which is a plus. So Fleshbag Marauder.
Fleshbag Marauder gets played. Something that we did not see from Paul. I'd be interested. I'm curious to see whether he sideboarded that. I would think he did. We didn't see it in round 1 either. And here comes a Kalatas down on Edward's side.
Threat after threat.
Another big game. Yeah. But that Fleshbag Marauder was very interesting play on Paul's part. He exploited it to itself, and he just did it again.
Wow.
So there goes another Kalatas. So Ailey and Kalatas both taken down by Fleshbag Marauders. Not something that we've seen from Paul yet in Fleshbag Marauders, but works perfectly for his strategy. Jace has been flipped now with both Fleshbag Marauders in the graveyard. A discarded Zulaport Cutthroat, and Jace was ticked up with no target to minus it, but that's fine.
Putting in those Flashback Marauders is actually pretty interesting, because if you rally the Flashback Marauders, I mean, you can pretty much sack them instantly, but like that causes the rally to also cause the opponent to sacrifice creatures.
And the Cutthroats means that you're just gaining more life and losing more life, and etc. So there goes another activation of Jace on the only creature on Edward's side of the field. So we'll see if he can come back from that. Edward plays a tapped Tri-land as well, tapping some other cards here, and he plays a Thought-Knot Seer. So the Sylvan Advocate is there. The Sylvan Advocate does get +2/+2 because Edward does have 6 lands, but it has -2/-0 from Jace. So it is currently a 2/4 and a 4/4 Thought-Knot. Collected Company was played immediately in response to the Thought-Knot, just in an attempt to get more value on the board and get it out of his hand so it's not a target for that Thought-Knot. So he's playing down 2 creatures. One of them's a Reflector Mage. The other one's the Catacomb Sifter. So we'll see that Thought-Knot get bounced. The trigger is still there.
So it does cause him to draw a card.
Correct.
And goes, yep.
So he gets to now see the card that was drawn as well.
Is that 3 Jaces?
It's a Jace, Nantuko Husk, a Cutthroat, another Jace. Yes, it is 3 Jaces.
3 Jaces in his hand.
So he returns 2 of them to his hand just because you can only pick one. And actually, the Cutthroat is the one that was gotten rid of.
Now it definitely knows he has insurance just in case he wants to just in case the Jace dies. That's essentially like increases his overall life total. If he ever decides to attack the Jace multiple times to try and get rid of all of them, I mean, he has a lot of Jaces to go through.
It's true. And we just saw there, he attacked with Edward attacked with his 2/4, and there was a triple block that happened, and the Eldrazi Scion token was the only thing to fall on Paul's side. The Jace flashback has occurred. He has gotten a Cutthroat and an Nantuko Husk, so aggressively attacks that he flipped that card upside down. So he's
like, no, I got this. It's attacking upside down. That's how hard I wanted to attack.
So he knows exactly what he wants to do. He's gaining a lot of advantage here. Another Kalatas comes out on Edward's side, though. Another big threat. We've seen Paul get rid of that every time he sees it. We'll see if he goes for it as aggressively once again. But right now, I mean, he's got a lot of stuff out.
Taps 1, looking to bounce it.
Yep.
Does he bounce it? Yes, he bounces it.
So he plays the Sidisi's Faithful and sacrifices it, bouncing it. The Zulaport Cutthroat ability activates, and the Scry ability activates.
Oh, that looked like a rally. He just top-decked.
And he's determining up, and he
doesn't want the rally.
Weirdly enough, putting it on the bottom. I don't know what he might have in his hand, whether he has another rally or whether he doesn't feel like his graveyard is enough, which I can't imagine. But he does get a Kalatas zombie that the Jace activation has been put on. One of the Nantuko gets blocked, so it dies with no power thanks to Jace. The other damage does go through. Again, very aggressive attacks here from Paul.
This was the start he needed in order to run away with the game. Board wipe here would be pretty devastating. If that putting the rally on bottom of the deck could have cost him if there was a board wipe here. There are board wipes in this standard in this format,
especially in white. I've seen it, so you got plenty of it. And plays the Thought-Knot, so he gets to see what he's working with. He exiles one card in his hand and shows the other Jaces that are there. So just knows that this is your only option, and kind of shows it to him and lets him know. And the Kalatas gets played back again. So again, big threats on the board on Edward's side, but it might be too little too late.
The Reflector
Mage
Ooh,
immediately bouncing and aggressive attacks once again. That's just the name of the game, and that's it. Handshake.
Too aggressive.
Yeah.
And too aggressive to deal with.
Yeah, this rally deck has been incredible. We saw it in round 1 as well. So doing an amazing job once again. This was a pretty tight one. A lot of threats coming down on Edward's side, but
especially game 2.
Yes, but they just unfortunately weren't enough. The rally deck was able to get that stuff out there. I'm actually really most impressed, surprisingly, by the Fleshbag Marauders. They did a lot of work in game 3.
They hit a Kalatas. What was the other card they hit?
Ailey as well.
They hit an Ailey.
And that was early threats that they got out of the way immediately, and it was something that was surprising to me, which I'm sure was surprising to Edward as well. It was not something that we, having seen Paul play in round 1, we didn't see it from him in round 1, and now we saw it in round 3, game 3 of round 3. So, very, very interesting to have boarded those in. Obviously worked out for him, and it's a great way to get rid of those big threats that Edward had very many of coming out on his field. So, props to Paul being able to deal with everything that came out and
sideboard really well.
Exactly. So, guys, that's going to be it for round 3. Thank you, as always, for watching. I've been Joe.
I'm Schnaz.
And as we always say, stay tuned for the other videos from this series, from this game day. And in whichever video you watch next,
we'll see you all next time.
Thanks guys.